this case, the corporation is the centralized US government. It is indeed bankrupt, but the sub-companies are still running. And what are those companies? They are the agencies you see and hear daily. The DOJ, the DOD, the Supreme Court, the State Department, the Federal Reserve, the mainstream media, etc. They're crumbling, but they're doing everything they can to drag as many of us down as possible. The deep state is indeed very powerful, but just like a pop star is nothing without fans, they're nothing if we don't consent to their plans. So the people, us, all we have to do is reject their ideology, reject their plan, and reject everything they do or say. Whether you know it or not, every single one of us is in this war, and everyone has to choose a side. Well, did Joe Biden, aka the comedian, just confirm that Donald Trump is still the sitting president?
Let me tell you who else is noticing that. Donald Trump. Did you see what he recently said about he wants to see the economy crash this year? The sitting president.
Rumors have been laying around saying that Donald Trump is still the president of the United States of America, and Joe Biden is an actor or multiple actors wearing a mask pretending to be president. Normally, people would just laugh this off as a joke, but is it a joke? And today, I'm going to explain to you briefly that why do some people, including me, think that Donald Trump is still the president of the United States? Just briefly, okay, because the entire proof process might take 3 hours or more. I'm going to answer some common questions like how is he able to run the third term? And how was he able to pull this off in the first place, like the legal basis and stuff. And if Donald Trump is the real president, how is America and the world being ruined by the Biden administration and nobody's doing anything about it? And most importantly, who is really running the country? So first question, how can he run for a third term? Simply put, this term limit rule doesn't apply to Donald Trump. It only applies to Joe Biden and any other president. Why? You see, the US government is known as a government agency to most people, but in fact, it's a privately owned corporation, and the president of this corporation is the president of the USA. And this corporation is now bankrupt, and Joe Biden is the president of this bankrupt corporation. But Donald Trump isn't the president of this corporation. He has brought back the original constitution from 1776 and has restored the Republic of America, and he is now the president of the United States, the Republic. This is slightly confusing. There are 2 constitutions in the United States, or more. There could be more, but I don't know. The current constitution most people know of is the constitution of that bankrupt private corporation. It's not really a constitution. Technically, it's called a company policy, and only the employees of this company should follow the said policies. The presidency limit that most people know of is placed by the 22nd Amendment, but the original Constitution of the United States only had 10 amendments. It doesn't have any term limits, and the 10 amendments is what we call the Bill of Rights. So there's nothing stop Trump from running for a third term. Some people might not believe this government is a corporation theory. Like I said, it will take you quite some time to go through a lot of readings if you really want to dig into it. And I have done that. But here are some quick questions that can open your eyes if you think about them. For example, why does the US government print a fiat currency when the Constitution explicitly said the US currencies must be backed by gold or silver? That's a blatant violation against the Constitution. Yet nobody questions it. Here's another one. In the Constitution, it clearly states that only the US government or the Congress has the power to coin money, and yet the US fiat currency is being printed by a privately owned Federal Reserve, another violation against the Constitution. And the only reason they can violate the Constitution is because that's not the Republic Constitution that you know of. It's their company policy. They can decide if they want to enforce it or not. If you still don't believe me, since I'm just some random Asian with a sexy face, here's a clip from Jen Halper Hayes, who's from Trump's team, and she said this on UK's mainstream media. Check this out.
Now, let me say something about this 2020 election, is that Biden is the legitimate president, but he's the legitimate president of what is now the bankrupt U.S. corporation. And that was a treaty in 1871. Well, on September 12, 2018, Trump created an executive order. Within that, he outlined in future elections any kind of foreign or domestic interference, specifically for the 2020 election. So we say, how did he know some of these things were going to happen? Election integrity on both sides of the aisle is tough. It's really tough. But what this has done is it's opened the door for Trump to present his case.
You may still not believe her since she's some random lady with some random title and you are too busy scrolling through stupid TikTok videos for dopamine stimulus. This clip was reposted by Donald Trump himself, the real president. Well, if you don't believe Trump, believe Biden. Biden said it too.
And Aqua and his whole strong. Yes. And
The next question is, how is this dual presidency system legal? Nowhere in the law book you can find a clause that lists a legal ground for running shadow presidency, right? Well, not only there is such a law, the mainstream media and the DOJ/legal experts openly talked about this on TV. The best part? They're too afraid to talk about the ramification of this law.
Have the absolute right to declare a national emergency.
The authority is total, and that's the way it's got to be.
They have the right to do a lot of things that people don't even know about.
No one really knows what the limits of those claimed authorities might be because they are often developed and kept in secret.
Goitin says what little we do know about PIADS comes from references to them in other documents, some of which are now declassified.
They originated in the Eisenhower administration as part of an effort to try to plan for a potential Soviet nuclear attack. But since then, they've expanded to address other types of emergencies as well. No presidential emergency action document has ever been released or even leaked.
John Yoo is a law professor at the University of California, Berkeley. While serving at the Justice Department after 9/11.
Yes, that's a fair way to say. The Justice Department and the office I worked in would review the legality of the PIADS because they would draw on presidential powers and congressional powers delegated to him.
In summary, Donald Trump, as the president, has the power to suspend the Constitution and do basically anything he wants when there is a national existential crisis, aka national emergency. And what triggered this national emergency? Election fraud, or better yet, foreign-assisted election fraud. Some suggest that he may be a wartime president. It's very hard for outsiders like us to know, but it's possible. Next question, if Donald Trump is indeed the sitting president, then how come the world and the USA is in such a hot mess? I mean, why doesn't Trump just stop all of it and stop the suffering? Well, this is a complicated topic. I'll cover it as simply as I could. There are two major factors here. One, to avoid the civil war and to reduce the amount of damage and suffering to the people. Two, many things have to be played out for people to see in order to wake them up. This is what we call the Great Awakening movement. But some people might get a little upset saying, but our borders are being invaded. Biden wants to cut my boy's penis off. Or I'm almost homeless. How is this reduced suffering? Sadly, we're at war with the people who own the bankrupt US corporation. Reduced damage doesn't mean no damage. When it comes to war, there's always casualties. Just like when you're playing chess, you always have to trade pieces. On top of that, the suffering of the people are mainly caused by the people themselves. Yes, you're the reason why you're suffering. And you are also the reason why everybody else is suffering. You might not agree with it since it comes from a sexy random Asian. But these words actually come from George Washington, the founding father. You may not understand why, but I'd love to explain this in depth in another video if this video ever blew up on social media. As for the second factor, what does it mean to show people to wake them up? Well, contrary to popular belief, reasons and evidence don't work on people. They only work on people who have a free mind, and sadly, most people have been brainwashed or hypnotized by the environment, school, media, or other people. The only thing that's going to wake them up are what we Chinese people call the iron fist. meaning the brutal truth comes punch you in the stupid face so hard you have to wake up. For example, a friend tells Jack that his wife has been sleeping with his brother. This is what we call red pilling, meaning to tell somebody brutal facts, but they can choose not to take it. In this case, Jack decided not to take it and tell his friends to F himself, only to come to home finding his wife on bed naked with his brother. And that's what we call an iron fist. He now has to accept it. There's no way of denying it. I mean, just look at America now. There's no law and order. Shoplifting everywhere. Drug abuse went from on the streets to schools. Babies are on their way to a sex change surgery before they can even speak. Illegal aliens are swarming towards the border, and it's illegal to stop them. Everything that's happening is screaming, wake the fuck up, people! Lastly, I'd like to answer a final question. Who's really running the country? The answer is not simply Biden, Trump, or deep state. Like I said, we're at war. There's not a single person or organization that runs everything. I can't tell you which part of the military or country Trump is running because I don't have the insider information. But I can tell you that we, the people, are part of his army. He exposed the information and hope we will do the right thing. It's more of an autonomous operation, but I can definitely tell you which part of the country that deep state is running since it's all public knowledge. Remember the part where I said US is a corporation? What's a corporation? It's an assembly of many companies. In this case, the corporation is the centralized US government. It is indeed bankrupt, but the sub-companies are still running. And what are those companies? They are the agencies you see and hear daily. The DOJ, the DOD, the Supreme Court, the State Department, the Federal Reserve, the mainstream media, etc. They're crumbling, but they're doing everything they can to drag as many of us down as possible. The deep state is indeed very powerful, but just like a pop star is nothing without fans, they're nothing if we don't consent to their plans. So the people, us, all we have to do is reject their ideology, reject their plan, and reject everything they do or say. Whether you know it or not, every single one of us is in this war and everyone has to choose a side. Well, if you choose my side, you can consider following me on Rumble or X. You can support me financially on Ko-Fi or buy some baking soda or distilled water machine from my Amazon affiliated links. Or if you speak Chinese, you can join my Telegram channel or chat group. My name is Professor Min, and I'll see you sheeps in the next video. Bye.